Welcome to Workplace Claims Prevention and Solutions. I'm Janet Mackay, Executive Director of ADR Institute of Canada. I'm very pleased to present this webinar, one in a series offering interesting and practical information for members, organizations, and the public. I'd like to introduce Claude Freeman, a long-time dedicated and involved member who is an accomplished mediator and arbitrator. So accomplished, in fact, that he's been awarded both of ADRIC's designations for leading practitioners. He's a chartered mediator and a chartered arbitrator. Claude was planning to be joined by Lisa Jones, but she is unable to be here today. You can learn more about both of them on our website. And you can find many other ADR professionals who specialize in workplace and many other special areas of practice on ADR Connect, the green go-to button on our website. Claude?
Thanks very much, Janet, and thanks for everybody for joining. I'd like to thank ADRIC and Janet for putting the webinar together. This is a very important topic, and it's one which I think or feel that can produce a lot of opportunities for our members. The focus is going to be on workplace issues that eventually migrate into long-term disability claims, which is one that's has some very, very high cost and economic issues to our country and to businesses. Just a quick note about how I got involved with this topic is that a couple of years ago I got a call from one of the leading reinsurers in the insurance industry, primarily the long-term disability insurance industry, and they asked me to provide a number of solutions as a result of my ADR, workplace, and long-term disability claims experience. And this is exactly how we got to the Workplace Claims Prevention and Solutions Seminar. So to get started, what I'm going to do is go to our menu of topics for today. So here's the key points we're going to talk about today. That's failing to be preventive is economically prohibitive, very economically prohibitive. A lot of stats to talk about that. And how did we get to this point? What got us to this juncture? And we're going to talk about some key stats and economics that have been generated over the course of time through various regulatory and other bodies. And of course, what are the options? What are the services that can be provided and that we do provide? And that includes as well the claim services that are custom tailored to intervene between workplace and claims issues. There's some HR and plan administrator counseling and education seminars and benefits. In fact, we've put together what we consider to be probably one of the most unique HR best practices compendium for both employers and employees. And the winners, we can talk about that. Those are everyone. We'll have some testimonials we'll discuss. And of course, the unique and right experience for these issues is very, very pertinent because although there's a lot of dispute resolution professionals out there, I think it's very important to have a keen understanding of the claims process and how the workplace issues migrate into LTD claims. Then we'll get into some of the claim services that are tailored to the needs of both employers and plan administrators and HR people, and of course what's next. So let's go into the issue of the economics. The big issues are the unhappiness and toxic issues in the workplace. They are a big item that drive the issues of economics behind LTD claims. A lot of them, of course, are mental health issues because the unhappiness generated or that occurs in the workplace eventually winds its way into a mental health claim. Employees are often trying to find the easy way out by way of LTD, and later we'll look at that. But long-term disability coverage is does not offer coverage for unhappiness in the workplace. Employers have to invest more time in monitoring and prevention and act earlier on employee issues. EAP programs don't always address these issues and have limited scope of offerings for those issues. There's reported sales difficulties with group renewals due to escalating premiums. In fact, some companies that I know or some underwriters that I know are telling me that they are unable to renew their life and health, or at least the long-term disability portion of life and health programs because they're unaffordable. Of course, absenteeism and presenteeism are key things. Absenteeism are is an issue that's purely driven by people unhappy in the workplace. However, presenteeism is simply a function of people going to work every day and simply going through the paces of appearing to be happy at work when they're simply despondent and they're just showing up at work. Of course, reduced employee engagement, we'll look at those stats later, because the level of employee engagement in Canada across the country is very, very low. So, and how did we really get to this point? Well, over the years, there's been a gradual increase in workplace mental health issues, and particularly since 2001. And of course, many of these have linkages to group LTD claims. HR or plan administrators have been totally unable to keep up with management practices, workplace civility seminars, and other solutions, simply due to the volume, speed, and the new issues affecting the workplaces. They're coming in at a record speed. So some of the key stats and economics that I talked about earlier for mental health costs in Canada, this is approximately a $51 billion per year price tag. It's fantastic. It's a huge number. And there are lots of options and tools to be able to reduce that. Absenteeism and presenteeism costs in Canada are estimated to be around $25 billion per year. It's a huge number. Employers that were surveyed reported, 80% of them reported that mental health issues are in the top 3 drivers of short-term and long-term disability claims. And in 2010, 47% of disability claims were related to mental health issues. And that was double that of what it was in the year 2000. The workers surveyed, 79% of them surveyed reported that mental health issues of any kind affects their work performance. It's a huge number. Absence of employees, 50% of employees who are absent for between 6 and 12 months on LTD claims especially never return to gainful employment. So those become permanent claims. 90% of them absent for 12 months or more never return to gainful employment. So that's an equally staggering statistic. And another one that the insurance industry has looked at, which is really a function of the underwriting and the pricing costs that I discussed earlier, is that the premium costs per employee, the loaded premium costs for a life and health package per employee in 2011 was around $4,980 per year. And it's expected that by the end of this year, 2019, to hit $11,060. So let's look at some of the key stats as well. 78% of the Canadian workers surveyed reported fears of losing their jobs over mental health issues. As well, there's been a 700% increase in court-awarded settlements due to mental injury in the workplace between 2004 and 2009, and that continues to increase. 84% of employers have no process to address significant changes in employee productivity or behavior. So, and we talk about those issues, but early intervention benefits tell us that there's a 20 to 30% reduction in work days lost for claims through early intervention. As well, there's a 25 to 30% reduction in repeat short-term absences, as well as a reduction of 40 to 60% in long-term disability conversion. So let's go on to the next part. In 2001, it was estimated that approximately 30% of LTD claim portfolios were mental health claims. In 2014, these were estimated to be 44%, and that number continues to grow. In 2015, it was reported by some senior claims managers that 80% of new LTD claims were suspected of having embedded workplace issues. And I spoke earlier about employee engagement. And a staggering statistic here is that a recent RDI report, which was done 3 years ago, and it's still recent because the employee engagement hasn't increased, but RDI is the French channel in Quebec for the CBC. And they did a survey, and they estimated employee engagement at being somewhere around 38%, which is not high at all. So let's look at what are the options? We could just sit around and hope things improve. They haven't. All those numbers that I've brought up and showed and displayed Even though some of them are 2, 3, or 4, 5 years old, they continue to increase and get worse. So we can either just hope or be preventive. And when employers fail to be preventive, there's a negative and cascading effect on insurers and reinsurers alike. So some of the services that we've looked at and we've provided to help part of the process, which isn't just related to claims, but deals with the workplace issues as well, is that we can provide claims manager enhancement skills. And as I go forward, you'll understand that sometimes some of the claims are in-house managed. So sometimes they're not always handled by the insurance company, although the insurance company is the one who's paying for the disability packages. Preventive employee seminars on workplace civility and respect, that's a big issue, because if we can put some more civility and respect in the workplace, we'll reduce the number of cases that are creating issues and degenerating into serious conflict. We provide a number of reactive services designed to prevent workplace issues from progressing further or becoming contentious. And they include workplace conflict resolution, such as mediation, fact-finding, arbitration, workplace assessments and audits, which we're doing a lot of recently, workplace restoration techniques to go in to the workplace when things have degenerated so that we can try to restore the civility and the balance in the workplace. A lot of HR practices and coaching can be offered to both the HR management and plan administrators, as well as indicate how to properly run and manage an absenteeism management program. And of course, mental health and wellness seminars and services through other specialists in that field. And in terms of claim services, we look at the key things are early intervention and accommodations. Very important that employers look at accommodating and looking at options in the workplace when things are going awry, such as change of locations, a change of shift times if possible, and vertical displacements on the chart in terms of job descriptions. Stay-at-work claims management, which helps the claimant or the management assist with return to work and or regeneration of workplace civility with the claimant. Corporate claims management, that's to assist with HR, PA, and other people. And I say PAs, I'm referring to plan administrators always, because those are the people who interact with the insurance companies, so we can help with that. We can do independent case reviews, complex claims management for situations where there's a number of issues that are embedded and are becoming circular. We can do appeal reviews where sometimes the claimant is disputing the decision to either close or not pay the claim, and we can assist with third-party neutral reviews, as well as process reviews. Perhaps there's some processes in the system at the employer's level that can use a review and streamline the way they're doing business and their interactions also with the insurance people, as well as claims auditing and just looking at whether there's any telltale signs there of some things that are going awry. So some of the HR and plan administrator counseling and education, and I think it's very, very important that when you have a workplace, it's important that employers understand and know and recognize they have a duty of care to manage absenteeism, open up employer and employee dialogue, and know how to properly handle disciplinary practices and terminations, recognizing signs of potential issues so as to prevent them, how to handle and report alleged workplace issues. In many cases when we get into the workplace, we find that those haven't been handled properly. Of course, understanding the legal and financial pitfalls from failing to properly manage the situations is very, very important. And I spoke earlier about horizontal job relocations or accommodations. That's very key. Attracting and retaining good employees, we can help with that. knowledge of applicable legislation, understanding also the court adjudication awards, because they reflect what's gone on in the workplaces in the past and how to prevent things in the future. And then, of course, mental health and wellness seminars through myself or other professionals in the field. So some of the benefits are, of course, for employers are enhanced HR and employer visibility. It's easier to recruit better or good employees. It reduces employee turnover costs. It reduces absenteeism and related employee replacement costs, reduces claims, and it reduces the specific group experience, which can impact on premiums. There's a potential also for premium stability, where if an employer is properly managing the claims experience for their group, it's possible for them to look to the insurer later for some premium stability, as well as prevention from embarrassing litigation and punitive awards. There's increased workplace morale and engagement that would drive up the productivity, which we saw earlier is so very low. Of course, trying to immunize employers from costly punitive court awards, and of course the privacy of handling things before they start rumors and get more complex and more people get involved. So who are the winners through all of this? It's employers, it's employees, insurers, and reinsurers. And yes, of course, the unions as well, because then they have less grievance issues to handle, amongst other things. So some of the testimonials behind all of this over the years has been, and I look at the airline industry because there's a thing that's called safety management system today, but back then it was cockpit resource management. And what they did is they looked at flight crews who couldn't interact properly between themselves, and they found a way to work on not pairing them together on trips or flights. So they worked on making sure that they weren't putting people who had conflictual situations together. Every year, at the start of the year, Bell Canada opens up a yearly mental health dialogue, and that's a regular thing. They do a good job of keeping that discussion alive. Of course, the federal government instituted the new CSA standard, which is a fairly comprehensive guideline of HR practices that they look for, and that was in 2013, so the federal government uses this. So to summarize, I've put together my dispute resolution experience, my claims experience, as well as the employment and workplace related work that I do. I've got 22 years of working in this field, and ironically, it's only in the last 3 or 4 years that employers and the insurance industry has come forward looking to open and maintain this dialogue on a current basis. So now let's go forward. And my colleague Lisa, who isn't here, unfortunately, she could address all of the details of what we do together, but essentially we talked earlier about early intervention and accommodations in the workplace. I think that's a key part of it. Stay at work, and it's about identifying presenteeism and change in performance issues. Help with corporate claims management, as well as the case reviews that I discussed. This helps people get a separate view on things before they make a decision that could otherwise become litigious. Complex claims management, sometimes the people at the employer or HR level haven't dealt with a mix of issues in the complex claims or HR area, and some of the things that could eventually become litigious, so we can help with that. Help with providing third-party appeal reviews. It's a form of adjudication that helps to provide a neutral opinion on things before somebody makes a decision that would later become much more litigious, as well as claims process reviews, the flow of things and how things are managed in the workplace. And as well, of course, as claims auditing. We could look at a portfolio of claims, which we've done, and then assess which types of issues are going on that are driving a high claims load. So those are the really key things that are driving the issues in the workplace claims area as they migrate into LTD claims, and those are the linkages as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Claude. How does a small issue in the workplace snowball into an LTD claim?
The simple answer is that there's a lack of attention. There's a lack of guidance. There's a lack of referral to professionals when things go wrong. And often enough, I think people think that issues will self-resolve. People will try to resolve them themselves. But sometimes they just don't have the expertise or the knowledge or the tools to do that themselves.
I guess a lot of people don't like to handle conflict or confront it.
This is true, and unfortunately, the negative side of not getting involved with conflict has a much worse consequence of letting it fester. So, as I tell everybody and all my clients, and that is, if you fail to be preventive, things are just going to cascade and become worse later. Yeah, call in a neutral professional when you need to. That's
Right.
the key part.
Right.
Yeah.
What kind of organizations are affected by this?
Everyone. I see all types of issues in the private and the public sector, and it ranges from everyone with rather small and medium-sized companies without an HR department, or just simply who has a charge of an HR function, all the way up to large corporations, as well as in the public sector as well.
Are the insurance companies doing anything to try and address this?
They are trying, and of course now with the discussions that have been generated over the last year or two, they're getting around to looking at both solutions in terms of helping their claims people understand more how to look at these things and understand the dynamics of things in the workplace that are migrating into claims, as well as trying to push it back uphill to the clients that they insure to let them understand that there are other neutral third-party tools and solutions that can be provided both on a preventive and on a reactive scale. Yeah.
That's interesting. What kind of mental health issues were you saying could be caused in the workplace?
Well, typically, when we talk about mental health, these are all issues where people fail to be able to be productive. It's either absenteeism or presenteeism, and it's a point where people then end up having to get a medical or mental health referral to deal with issues of depression and negative outlook on life. And unfortunately, in some cases, the issues that are at work just seem to fester throughout the day. And what happens is that it affects the employee after the day's over, and then the next day they think about it when they get up on their way to work. So I call that the workplace bubble. And so those issues end up being types of depression and anxiety and so forth. And employees seem to drag that along throughout their workday. And so people often think that they're only at work for 6 or 7 hours throughout the day, but people forget that when they get up in the morning, they're commuting to work, they're at work, and then they're commuting back home, and they're at home, and they're decompressing. There's usually about a 15 or 16-hour window of time during the day where they're affected by this. So it's not just when they're at work.
Can it affect those people's families as well?
Absolutely, absolutely. So if an employee arrives home and they're nervous, agitated, mad, or they feel somewhat anxious or unstable in terms of their ability to handle serious issues as they arise, they will end up either, in some cases, requiring therapy and other types of services, which otherwise could have been avoided if they'd been a little more preventive and knowledgeable about looking out for these things up front. And had the resources also to go to somebody at work and saying, I need some help.
Right. If we have some members who are interested to assist organizations more, how would you suggest they go about it? If they're already in a workplace area. Yeah,
if they're in a workplace type of practice, I really suggest that They should be talking to CEOs as well as HR people in terms of providing preventive and reactive services. So the preventive services would be things, as I discussed earlier, such as workplace civility and respect seminars, that sort of thing, as well as some HR coaching tools if they have that background, as well as the preventive, allowing employers and HR people to know that there are reactive solutions such as facilitated discussions, mediation, and other types of solutions that they can provide the employer, so that the employer knows that there's a menu of things available they can work with. Mm-hmm. So they should be in touch with HR type and management type people to promote that. It's not so much a function of having them get involved in the anxiety issues, because those are for medical professionals. So it's important to point that out. And for those who don't have any expertise with the long-term disability claims process, is to just take a step back and maybe look at others who have that expertise. But certainly in terms of the workplace preventive tools, first point is with the HR management.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Do you have any idea of the cost of, say, one case that snowballs into LTD, what that would cost an organization?
Yeah. Well, I could tell you that on average, an average LTD monthly payment, which is usually 66%, depending on the package that they bought, 66% of a gross salary that they earned is usually paid. So that number on average in Canada is about $1,900 and some odd dollars per month. And most LTD claims typically run for at least 6 months or so. Hmm. And the other problem, and so all you have to do is multiply the monthly benefits that are being paid by the number of months out. And then the other problem, of course, is the hidden costs we don't see are the issues of having to accommodate other people, hire fill-ins and that sort of thing. So, and if they become really, really nasty situations and they become litigious, well, the cost of litigation is up for any guess.
Right.
In many cases that I've seen, when they turn into a wrongful dismissal, those numbers escalate at the $50,000 rep level. Mm-hmm. Very, very high numbers. But in terms of the actual insurance costs, it's an average of about $1,900 to $2,000 a month in benefits that are being paid. So and we all have to multiply that by the number of months, and that doesn't include, of course, the other specialists that are brought in to counsel the employee, whether it's psychiatrists, psychotherapy, and all the other third-party providers and therapists that come in.
And the damage it can do in the organization
Absolutely.
itself to other employees. And
yeah, it's toxic and it spreads around and it's not good for morale.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Thanks very much, Gianna.